Hello, ladies. I'm Lydia Ruth. Welcome to Homemaking Radio. I hope you get a few things done while you listen. But before you begin, please go to the link in the description box here on the channel and listen to me talking on the page on which I will embed this video, because you won't get any ads and you'll see the other things that I included, the links, the photographs, also the poems and the names of things on the page that you might want to use later on. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here too, especially as I become more vital. I'm always surprised. So that's the thing. When you get to this age, everything is a surprise, and it's kind of enjoyable. And today I have so much to talk to you about. I just really don't even know where to begin. But that is why I had the three major subjects on this broadcast, was to give me some kind of structure to go by. So I'm going to begin where I established that I would always begin, and that is, that it's very important, I think, to begin with your good appearance. And that meaning that if you have a good appearance, then it shows your worth. And if you don't feel you have worth, I think the way that you can begin is to start with a good appearance anyway, no matter how bad you feel about yourself. It shows respect for God. It shows that you have enough humility to take care of yourself, and that you respect your body as a creation of God, and that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. I was studying the other day, trying to be autodidactic, which means self-taught, learning something about the body and your saliva and how it protects the root of your teeth, and how it goes to other places in your body, and how without a natural that natural product you could suffer, your health could suffer. And I think that we also have to realize we do have worth. Especially now, I think it's important that you take care of yourself and take care of your body, and do the best you can as far as appearance goes. Wear something that inspires you. I like to kind of go by a mood dressing, where whatever the weather is or whatever I'm inspired to feel according to the season or something like that. Today I'm wearing a flannel plaid shirt with an Edwardian walking skirt that my daughter made from one of the folkwear patterns, and I will put it on the dress form and get a picture for you. That's why you need to go over to the blog and watch this video, because there will be other things on there that go with. So today, ladies, please leave behind the news. You have to. You can't watch this or listen to this and get anything done if you keep taking your phone and going back to see what the latest news is. They're going to keep you in a constant state of emotional upheaval and anxiety, so that you'll buy their products that they promise will make you feel better. So just let's put it all away. Now, one of the beautiful things about those of us who are getting more vital is we see the past. We see how the news media manipulated our lives throughout the past, so we could never be happy, never enjoy life, never relax. Maybe some of you have grown children who never got to see their mother really happy, really enjoying life, because she was always waiting. You were always waiting for things to improve before you improved your house, before you tried to buy something you needed. You're always waiting for things to settle down, because you always thought it was the end. You always thought something like this, you would have to be all settled down. The world has to behave itself. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't need for the world to settle down. We don't need for the news to give us good news, because we are in our own home, in our own world, and we determine what that atmosphere is. If you could just only believe me, and if I were to have you in a class, your assignment would be to come back the next day and tell me how you made your home, your own world, separate and apart from what the media is telling us, or what the reports are, the bad reports. I'll ask you that. And you will have to surprise me by what you did. And so do you remember, those of you who are vital will remember a song, I believe it was from the 1960s, and that was during the folk singing movement. And many of their songs were pretty good, and they had really good meanings. But those of you in Australia, do you remember this one? Close the door, light the light. We're staying home tonight, far away from the bustle and the bright city lights. Let them all fade away. Just leave us alone, and we'll live in a world of our own. All our sorrows we'll leave far behind us there. And I know you will find there'll be peace of mind when we live in a world of our own. If you could just listen to that song, I'll try to find it for you. You listen to that. There's nothing wrong with it. It says, it'll be a world of our own that no one else can share. All our sorrows we'll leave far behind us there. And there's nothing wrong with that, because even the scriptures say God sets the solitary in the home. We don't need to have that world in it. We don't need to have the worries of the world in it. How sad it is to bring up children who are exposed to things like that. And children should grow up with a happy, carefree childhood that lasts as long as you possibly can. People are in such a hurry to make their children grown up. They can have a happy childhood clear to the age of 18. They don't have to start taking on adult responsibilities, but they should have a happy, carefree childhood, free from the worries of the world. Give them a chance, because those who grow up with that kind of stability are the ones that don't have a breakdown later on when they're 50. They don't have that, whatever that was called. And give yourself it's not too late. You can always have a good childhood and do the things you always wanted to do, and have the peace and have the happiness that you should have had when you were a child. Well, the home, that is where you develop a world of your own, and free from the reports. They've been at it forever. Even in the time of Jesus, the press was walking around sending out reports. Remember that phrase, a report went out. And it was always a scare tactic, or some kind of, to influence someone to be either hateful or frightened. And so, if you want to start your day with peace, if you've come here at the beginning of the day, that's good. But I hope you'll dress up. I hope you'll just dress up and wear your best for the home. And that doesn't mean that you go and get your prom dress out. But it does mean that you dress as neatly and as beautifully as you possibly can, that you're happy with it. And so I think that also, if you're homeschooling, it's very important to include appearance first thing in their day as an exercise in courtesy and health, and an exercise in taste and neatness and tidiness and coordination. This is one of their subjects. You'll have to make it up. You might be able to get some books on it. I always looked for books on it, on appearance and grooming. And I found a lot of good materials when my children were growing up, and used them as best as I could. Now, one of the things that I have suggested is that you make workbooks out of all your books. And I'll just give you a sample of what a workbook is. This one was called Man in Demand, and it covered grooming for young men, and it did it with it's a work text. There's textbooks where just the book with a information in it. Then there's workbooks which would go with the book, and then there are work texts. This is the text and the workbook combined. So what it does is it gives you a little text, something to read. Then it gives an example, and I love that they do the drawings for the examples, making it easier for the kids to understand. And then it has you fill in the information that you learned over here. So that way you learn. And my children just loved workbooks, and I made up workbooks, and friends made up workbooks. We used to write to each other and they used to write to each other, and they used to make up workbooks. And this is the one for girls called the Christian Charm Course, and it also had several lessons in grooming, how to dress like a lady, how to dress for various events, how to fix their hair, how to shampoo their hair, and then they had the little worksheet across from it. And you just answered it or filled it out according to what you read over here. That's what a workbook is. So if you want to make a workbook out of any textbook that you have, or create a curriculum out of any book, it doesn't have to be a school book, then you just do it like this. And here was an example of different things to wear, and then there was a place here that they had to fill out. So ladies, you can get these two books. If you're going to get this one, get the one with the red cover. That's an older edition. It's better. I don't care for the new editions of things for some reason. I guess I've got an emotional attachment to it. So I want to make sure that you know that probably the answer to your success for today might be in what you do first thing. And I had 5 things, 5 minutes. It was your list, your tea, your prayer, your getting dressed, and your exercise. I doubt you could do it in 5 minutes, but just do what you can. And that is a great beginning. And of course, people can always sabotage the homemaker's day at home because they don't believe that she has any structure, or they don't believe that she has anyone checking on her, analyzing her, and she's not answerable to any corporation or company or authority outside of her own home. And so sometimes people resent that. And if that has not happened to you, that's wonderful. Some of us grew up with this kind of attitude. Way back in the 50s, they were running down the home. But we're going to cover a few things that might help that. And so have a good appearance, and make sure if you have children, and especially if you're homeschooling them, make sure that is the first subject of the day, that they don't come to the breakfast table or to school unless they have showered, unless they smell good, unless their clothes are clean, unless things are buttoned down properly and coordinating properly, and their hair is combed. And this is a whole subject. And you could also keep a little chart or create a workbook for them where they could check off their progress every day to see if they've done, my teeth brushed, or this, this, check. It's always fun to check a little box, isn't it? And so now I'm going to move on to homemaking. And the thing is about homemaking is that you can create the atmosphere that you really want. And if you feel miserable about the way the world is going, and you think it's just a really awful place, and you just want the end to come, then what you're doing there is that you're not doing your duty and your responsibility. So for as long as life lasts, we have a work to do. God has given us a work to do. And we know for homemakers, Titus 2 spells it out, 1 Timothy 5:14, and other places spell out that the homemaker is responsible to guard and guide the home. That's what you have to keep doing. And you remember Christ's explanation or illustration of what would happen when there would be a certain disaster. I believe it was 70 AD when the temple was going to be destroyed. He said some people will be in the field harvesting or planting. Other people will be having babies. And even the Bible mentions in the days of Noah, before the flood came, even though it was imminent, there were people still having weddings, eating, and etc. And that's what we need to keep doing, is keep doing our responsibility and not be thrown off by the way the world is. And try not to listen to their reports. It is the time that you spend listening to those reports. You could be reading the Word of God and at least know what's in it. You don't have to understand it all immediately, but at least know what's in it. Even if some of it you can't quite decipher, at least know what's in it. And you can use maybe just read a sentence a day, and eventually it starts to grow on you, and you want more of it. It's kind of like that salt that I like. It it was called real salt. It has all the minerals in it. And at first, when I started using that salt on my cooking and on my food, I used a lot of it. I couldn't get enough. But after a while, my body kind of tapered off, and I just needed a little bit at a time because I had balanced my body again. And the scriptures can balance your mind, and you can read maybe one sentence a day and mull on it and sift it through and look at it in different ways and apply it to different circumstances. And so for the home, it's essential that we do that next. So life at home. Now, I said you're going to feel bad because the way the world wants you to feel, especially if you're a homemaker. Now, if you're out working, they regulate everything that you do, so you don't really think about much of these things because they've got the music blaring from the ceiling, and then they've got you on a time schedule, and then they regulate your life the whole working day, and you don't have any freedom. And so at home, where you have this enormous amount of freedom, you have to learn to handle it, because freedom in the Bible is about learning to use your life in a good, profitable way. And so your world is not, the world is not your home. But your home is a place where you can be happy. So life at home does not have to feel uneasy. And you just can't let it in. If you have anxiety at home and you're waiting for the news to straighten up, just so you can, think of what you're going to do, whether it be worth doing or not, just cut off that source of uneasiness, cut off that source of news, and cut off the negative from your life. And I don't like to use that word negative, but it's the only thing I can think of. The people, one of my grandchildren was reading to me the other day. I have a Zoom class for them, and he was reading to me about the cold water pourers from McGuffey's Reader Christian Edition number 5. And there was a story in there that just tickled him about the cold water pourers. People who could not be happy if you had any good news, or if you said anything nice, or if you just were speaking normally or giving normal greetings, they would pour cold water on it. And what that meant is they would contradict it, or they would make you feel really ridiculous. And so you may have to limit your communication with cold water pourers, and limit your words. Those kind of people want some kind of what would you call it, where they've got something to talk about, and they want you to give it to them. So they will ask and ask and ask until you give them some information about you. You've got to be careful what you say in the home to other people. And if they say, well, how are things going at home? Just say, as we're enduring it as best we can, or like Jane Austen would say, or as well as can be expected. Or remember, how are you? Fair to middling. It works out every time. And the person that is the cold water pourer needs the information to pour cold water on, because that's what they do. And but if you're young enough to change, you can change that. You don't have to do that. Just catch yourself before you start pouring cold water on things. That's just called criticism. Always criticizing is pouring cold water on things. So life at home does not have to feel uneasy the way the world is. So if you have anxiety at home and are waiting for things to change in the world, just cut off the sources of uneasiness. We are created by God to enjoy life. Did you know that? We're actually commanded to be happy in the Word of God. And so what happens? The world comes along through the news media, through any other kind of media or anything, and that's their goal, to make you unhappy. Because if you're unhappy, you can't achieve. You can't improve. You can't create. You aren't joyful, and you can't make a nice home. And that is so sad. The wonderful beauty of home is that it is your domain, and you are commanded to guard it. Guard it and guide it. That's military. Those are military words, aren't they? You might want to look up the word guard and find out what a guard does. And so you guard it from things that would depreciate it. You guard it from things that would make people's minds less than elevated. You want to edify, which means to build up and to improve. And you get around people. We'll get to the people part, and we'll have a lot of fun with that one. But I hope you are now working, getting something done at home while you listen. And if you're tired and it's late at night and you can't sleep, try listening and see if you don't fall asleep. I've been told by several people that I help them fall asleep. And at least I'm doing something worthwhile. So I thank you for that. Go ahead and use it for sleeping. You know, I like to go on YouTube and find all the videos that just have a black screen that say ocean sounds for sleeping, or some kind of other sound for sleeping that can help me sleep. And but I'm quite flattered I'm in that category, and yet you can sleep when you listen. So we are created by God to enjoy life. You need to ponder that for a little bit. How can we enjoy life? Well, there's a difference between good pleasures and bad pleasures. And there are many good pleasures at home that are okay for us, that make us happy and enjoy life. Our meals, our learning how to serve better food or create better food. And the children can go right along with you and help. I will show you that towards the end, that I'm doing one new thing a day this winter. And so if you listen to the news, you will not be happy or at ease. Now, there will come a time, it's like that salt. After a while, if you haven't listened to the news for a while and then you see a headline, you'll say, oh, ho hum, you just read it like a headline, very impersonally, and it won't affect your nerves. You won't get a stiff back. You won't get a pain, and you'll still be happy. So you can't let the news control you. Don't be drawn to politics. The best political activism is to do what Titus 2 says, guard and guide the home. That's political, because the politics doesn't want you to do that. They want you out running into their system and doing their bidding and paying respect to them. And so don't be drawn to politics. The best political activism is to have a stable life at home, because you're producing a family that's they're going to carry on with their family in the same way. And that's the only thing that really changes things. So to have a stable life at home, and as the scripture says, to be quiet, to mind your own business and work with your own hands. I'm afraid it's getting dark here, but I'm not going to get up. I'm just going to try to read that to you. It says, aspire to live quietly and to mind your own affairs and to work with your own hands, as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent on no one. That is a verse. It's in 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 11 and 12. You could ponder on that, write that out, and ponder on that for a long time, being dependent on no one. These days, everybody wants everyone to do things for them and to help them, and we need to be more autodidactic, self-taught, where we can learn ourselves to take care of ourselves and take care of our homes. But being quiet, minding our own business, and working with our own hands, and not being dependent on others so much, especially our country or the world or the news, not dependent on that is actually a big political statement. And that was 1 Thessalonians 4, 11 and 12. Now, it will give you a peaceful calling, worried about nothing. And there's some words here I would like to read to you about the home life: tranquility, serenity, and languid. Those words mean a peaceful calm, worried about nothing. Now, I know that people in the 1980s, in 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, many of us had no clue that homemaking could be as beautiful as it could. We just, I think, had a idea that you just got through it as quickly as you could so you could go do something else, and that it didn't have to be anything particularly spiritual, or you just get people fed and get the dishes done and move on. But Emily Barnes, and now I know you're going to object to this, but this is a workbook. See there? This is a workbook, and it's the first time I ever saw a workbook for women that put homemaking in such a happy light. This is from Helen Andelin. Now, a lot of people objected to Helen Andelin. I've heard all the objections, and I've looked it up to see what the problem was. There were lots of books out at the time. There were psychology books. There were other books that were very carnal out there about life, and there were also scary books about aliens and things like that. People didn't mind having those in their home. But Helen Andelin, for some reason, got the ire of people, and because she promoted homemaking, and she had a special artist come in, and that was the first thing. I must have been about 18 years old when I first saw this. These pages. This is a workbook. It's very hard to find such a thing, but the beauty of it was that women were portrayed in a good light at home, and in a happiness. And I wish I could find that page that I saw where there was just the look of contentment. And this is my favorite page here. And it emphasized that a woman could influence the world and be political in the best way through her home. And then we had Emily Barnes. And Emily was absolutely beautiful. She carried on from there. She was a little bit later than Helen Andelin. And she also got criticism. But she wrote many books, and one of them was Simple Secrets to a Beautiful Home. Well, reading this, you might conclude that, oh, well, it's just all about your furniture and your curtains and things in the home to decorate with, but it wasn't. It was very, very spiritual, because it's like dressing. It indicates your mood, what's inside. It's like your skin, it indicates what's going on inside of your body. If your skin is troubled, or if your health is not good, it's indication of your body condition. Well, it's the same with the home. It's the indication of your mood and your values and your beliefs and your likes and your dislikes. And so she wrote a chapter here. She had a book called The Spirit of Loveliness, and it was her first one. And she also had the beautiful artwork, pencil out, the line drawings that were really beautiful, that just showed women at home and little home scenes, like a lamp and a little book and a little vase of flowers, that to some of us who grew up in the late 1940s, early 1950s, were not exposed to that as much. And so for me to read it was just like it gave me the creative life that I longed for. And to have a comfortable house and a happy home, people in it being happy, and how arranging it and cleaning it could increase the contentment of the people that you live with. And you see it all around you in institutions. We've got beautiful hotels, and even the hospitals now are beautiful and have beautiful little coffee stations and things all around, and they even have gift shops in them. And you see it all around you, but for some reason can't translate it to the home. And I think it's really important that the things that you want to get away from and the things you want to go out to, that you adapt those ideas into your home. Why do you like other places? Because of the light, because of the smell of whatever, because of the what is it you like, because of the colors, because of analyze that and start to make your home into a place where you'd like to be, where you'd rather be. And one of the things that I did was study these books by Emily Barn, and I'll read some of it to you today, but I knew that it was such a wonderful reward that I got way back in the day when my family had been out for the day, and we were in the car a lot, and we were just catching up on things and doing the things we needed to do. And it didn't occur to me that the children would have rather been home, because when in the old days we want to go somewhere, but they had made it. They had helped make it such a wonderful, comforting place that when we got back from all the things we needed to do, one of them got up on the step, entered the front door, and kissed the floor. And I wondered where he got that, because I've heard that expression used, I'll kiss the ground you walk on, or kiss the floor, kiss whatever. And he kissed the floor, and he said, I'm so glad for this house. And it was just you would have called it a shack, but the things they loved were there. The things that they did were there. The laughing, the goofing around, and the fun, and the walks we took, and their own books, and their blankets and toys, and their music, and their clothes in their little closets, and the things they loved. They had been happy there. And to me, that's the greatest accomplishment, if that's the greatest compliment, if a child wants to come home. And so let me read to you from her book, A Place for Stillness. I still may have to turn on the light. A Place for Stillness. And it was Simple Secrets for a Beautiful Home, creating a place you and your family will love to be. And she pretty much copied a lot of it from her original book, The Spirit of Loveliness. But I wanted to read something she wrote here, because I'm talking about those words that I just said: tranquility, serenity, and languidness. And Helen Endelin had talked about that in her book too, in several sections. And even if you don't agree with anything that she wrote, at least read some of the other sections. Maybe you don't agree with what she wrote about marriage, but you could go read the sections on character, on feminine dress, or feminine ways, good speech, how to be refined, or homemaking, which those were very, very good chapters. And at the time, there was nothing like it out there. At the time, you have to understand, we did not have much choice for books. But these two books, they were very beautiful. And they also gave women a smile, that you could be happy. You could be happy in your kitchen. You can make things how you like it. And in America especially, our kitchens, for we women, that's our domain. We just really, most people I know don't like anyone messing around in their kitchen. That's their kitchen. They know where everything is. They're controlling everything. And I know that may not be the way it always was, but somehow that's our office. That's our business, our kitchens. We like to have a guest room and have a guest, and they have a guest bathroom, and they can sit in the living room. We've got their choices of what they want to do. But the kitchen, for most people, you only allow one good friend in it. You only allow your daughter or your granddaughter to come in it and talk to you while you work. That is just seems to be the way it is, especially for homemakers. So let me just read something about decorating. And if you're homeschooling and you have daughters, get them interested in decorating buy them decorating magazines or find things with good ideas in it on Pinterest or books and things that you have already, and let them use the challenges. Let's use what we have, just display it a different way. Move things around, take accessories, cloths and things like that, and colors, and let's experiment and see what we can do. So it says here, decorate your home with repose. Repose. There's a word for you. You can look that up, become self-teaching. And serenity in mind. There's another word for you. I'll give you the 3 words, and you can write them down and go and start your little appreciation book. I know some people have gratefulness journals, but I like this little idea of an appreciation journal. And use these, put these words in it: tranquility, serenity, and languid. And let us start over here. Decorate your home with repose. So that's another word, repose, R-E-P-O-S-E. And serenity in mind. Soft colors, blues and greens especially, have been shown to have a calming effect on the spirit. Now everybody's different, and you're free to choose. Plants and vegetation add an air of peace. Soft, non-obtrusive music, or one of those nature recordings of gentle rain or flowing streams, can screen out most disturbing noises. A folding screen, a room divider, or a door that closes can foster the sense of getting away. And of course, cultivating a serene, godly spirit in yourself does a lot to create an atmosphere of stillness for your home. When you can, keep your voice low and gentle. You know your family will listen to you more if you do less talking, and if you keep your voice almost down to a whisper. They'll stop and listen. It seems like it's important and it's a secret. The healing influence of stillness is more precious than ever today, when noise and clamor seem to close in on us from all sides. Most of us work, play, or go to school to a constant background of traffic and TV. We fight crowds at the mall, in restaurants, and on the highway. Life seems more competitive and stressful than ever before. To people who are overstimulated and worn down by the constant barrage of modern living, seeking and finding stillness can be a literal lifesaver at home. So the way that I overcame a lot of that is I quit going to restaurants, and I know a lot of you still like to go, and I'm not saying you can't go, but what I'm doing is I'm taking courses online for food preparation, and just making it more interesting and thinking what was it I liked and see if I could imitate it at home. And the beauty of home is you get to sit on furniture that only your family has pretty much sat on. You know who was there before you. You get to have the kind of atmosphere and the cleanliness that you want, and you can choose your noise, which you can't always do. And so let's continue here. Is that we've been so institutionalized, ladies, that it's hard for us to be autodidactic or self-learning, because all of our lives, most of us who are vital now, were everything was taken care of by an institution, and now we have to uninstitutionalize ourselves, and it can get kind of uncomfortable if you're used to being taken care of by everything else, by institutions and societies, and we're so used to it. We have institutions that take care of our health, take care of our education, take care of our safety, take care of our finances, and even take care of our homes. So now we have to learn, as homemakers, we're to guard and guide the home. We have to learn to take care of our own health. You do research. You look online. I told you about that last time. You don't go to your social media and find somebody that has a link to something. You go over to a search engine and you type in what you're looking for regarding health. Like I was talking to you a while ago, the health benefits of good saliva or something like that. And learn how to look after yourself. Learn how to look after the things that you would normally let the the allopathic system look after. Learn how to take care of yourself naturally. And also, we have to learn to educate ourselves. And we have to learn about our own safety. We think of institutions as taking care of our safety. There's an Abeka book for homeschoolers called Health, Safety, and Manners, and I particularly like the original edition of it. That was really good. And we need to take care of our own finances, be really smart about that, and take care of our own homes. Now, the thing that works best is if you have family, if you have children, they can come alongside of you and be part of it, and then they can have an inheritance of it if they're interested. And so this is their home. It's not like, well, this is my stuff, but when you grow up and leave home, you get your own stuff, because we're all part of it. We're all intermingled together at home. And yes, we want them to have their own happy homes, but we want them to also know that they will always be part of this, that old piece of furniture that they sat on could be theirs one day, or it's ours. Everything is ours. And I always loved it when my children would ask, do we have any such and such? Do we have a whatever? And I love that word, we. Do we have a, instead of do you have a. I love, do we have any books on, do we? Because this was their home, and I was homeschooling them. So we need to have a work of our own, and that will keep us busy, and that will also keep us from a lot of the social problems that go on. And things to inspire homemakers. First of all, to have a good appearance, to have a clean and orderly home, yet still relaxed and homey. And the life at home does not have to be terrible if you develop character. And character comes from things that are difficult, how you get through difficulties. And so if you develop character, what produces character? Getting over things, getting through things, having endurance. Endurance means durable and lasting. Now, I would suggest also that in order to keep from being too braggadocious about things, especially with your children, teach them the art of doing things quietly. And I suggested a lot of things that you could do so that you don't make a big deal out of it. Or maybe you don't have time to go back to your little exercise area and exercise. You could do a lot of stealth things. You know how I like to do this stealth sipping in little places where no one would suspect. And I have the little teacup and I take a picture for you. I suggest also, what about stealth stretching? If you need to pick up something, stretch a little further and tighten your muscles to pick it up. If you need to get something out of an upper shelf, just stretch a little bit. If you need to take something to another room and it's just a little bit heavy, use that as an opportunity to strengthen your core. And so I call that stealth stretching. And what about stealth cleaning? We want mothers and homemakers to relax, but you can have an eye for cleanliness and neatness and just get up and casually, pick something up. Nobody has to know you're cleaning. You don't have to be a martyr. You don't have to make a big deal out of cleaning the bathroom. Just clean while you're in there, this or that. And I call it stealth cleaning. Now, we want both the parents and the children to enjoy home life, and if you're homeschooling, we want them to enjoy it. It's not supposed to be a huge burden. We want them to enjoy it, and so we need to teach them to be a good caretaker of what you have. Just take what you have and take care of it better. clean it and repair it and cover it and do what it is that it takes to make it better. Just going to check my notes a little bit more. I do have a few things to read to you today. If I go over time, please remember to pause every now and then and start over another time. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything here. Now, I mentioned last time, this is a new subject, so if you want to pause and continue it later, you can. Why is it winter is so unfriendly and formidable? Why is it kind of scary to some of us? And summer is so nice. You can leave the doors open, windows open, and it doesn't seem so awkward. And so I decided to change all that. And remember I had fog season one time. Why is it so foggy all the time? I decided to make a little fun from it and get creative about it. And that's how you overcome some things that are not very pleasant. And our winters up here, in Oregon, they howl and they whistle through the cracks, and the winters just come in like a, what is it? Snake or something like that. There's a saying, and they're not friendly, and they're cold, and they blow everything around, and you have to bundle up, and it just doesn't seem as much fun. So I decided that in winter I was going to try doing something every day for a week. And I got this from some of my young friends. Some of my young friends that are still teenagers decided to spend a week like wearing a different skirt every day, or drinking out of a different teacup every day, and just so that they have these things. And I hadn't really thought of that. But I listed some things the other day, and listed some of those things. And so for myself, I've got all these wonderful cookbooks, and there's just not enough time in a lifetime. I keep asking God, let me live long enough to try these recipes. I said I'd find a recipe a day. I'm just going to try one new thing a day, even if it's just a little hors d'oeuvre or a little tea sandwich or something, some little thing every day. And I have a book on the different breads of the world. And I know most people aren't eating breads, but I get the excellent flour from King Arthur, and I get, that's the brand. And also there's the As Your Standard, some of you use. And I wanted to try just one from each country. And I've done Italy, and I got stuck on Italy because there's not a drop of Italian ancestry or relatives that's Italian in me at all. But it was so different, and I enjoyed it so much that I was just going to try one recipe per country, for one bread per country. But I got stuck when I got to Italy. Italy was a bunch of city-states. It wasn't really, it's not really one Italian thing. It all depends on the little city that it came from. So I had all those bread recipes. I had to try them. And I've tried everything, but I'm coming to one that's called, what's that? It's a little, kind of like a little thin cracker that looks like sheet music. I forget what it's called in Italian. And I got stuck in Italy for some reason. But I'm going on to British breads tomorrow. But that was what I was going to do every day for as long as I wanted to. Now, these girls, they like to do it for a week, something for a week. And another one that one of them had was she was going to try to do something different to her hair every day, even if it was just to put a different clip in it or a different bow in it. And to do something to their home every day that was pretty, some little pretty touch every day in their home. And and of course I have my usual sing a different song, find a different song to sing every day, write in an appreciation journal something every day. And one thing I learned from a young boy at home was, he was homeschooled, was these books by Eric Sloan that I've been telling you about on the weather, on how to read the weather. Well, he decided he would just do a little weather report every day in his little journal, his little blank book, and that's what he does every day. Writes down the weather and reads about it in this book. Look at the sky and see the weather, or something like that, by Eric Sloan. I'll try to include that on the page so you can see. And then, of course, I've really been into, over the years, because I grew up on a homestead in Alaska, and we used boxes and bags and just about anything. A flour bag, for example, once the flour was gone, you could turn it inside out and it was white, and you could draw a picture on it or make something with it. And so I got into brown paper crafts, from the brown paper bags, any kind of brown paper, and I wanted to try some little, what you could do with it every day. And then also you can try 5 minutes of quiet a day. Just put that on your schedule, 5 minutes of quiet a day. You know, that winter, you'll find after doing things like this, and also to read one sentence of a good book every day, to make up a story every day. Now, I have a floating, what I call a floating story. It's just a continuing story that wherever I am, in the manse, around the property, or if I have a day where I'm alone, everybody is gone, I continue with the story of a young woman who is a pioneer, and really enjoying what she does. In fact, sometimes I go to sleep thinking about this woman and what she's going to do next. And I keep the story going, and I have granddaughters and grandsons that contribute to the story, and it's not written down. It's just something that we do. Sometimes we text it to each other. More chapters in the air book, we call it. So don't wait for winter to be over. Don't wait for life to happen. You could decide for yourself. You have the freedom. This is your home. This is your family. This is your life. You don't have to let the world decide what you're going to do, what kind of mood you're going to be in, and whether or not you're going to be happy at home. So I just call it Winter is Beautiful. And I have read of people who said that the more that they tried to do things in winter and fill up those dark days, the more they enjoyed it and thought winter was the really big season, not summer. Summer's a little bit, although it's carefree, it's a mad dash to go and enjoy it before the winter comes again. Now, some of you that live in different places where you don't have distinct seasons wouldn't understand that, but we can still be friends. Now, I want to read a poem about the home to you. I have a lot of things I still want to talk about. So I want to read a poem to you, and I'll read it. It's a song, and it's about endurance. And I talk to you about endurance means to be durable. That doesn't mean that you let things happen to you that are not good for you, that are unhealthy for you, mind, body, and spirit. But endurance is important to God. So let's listen to this song here. I won't sing it to you, but I'll read you the words. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe. Now there you go. When you're tempted to think the world's just so awful, you wish it would all end because it's just such bad news. Think about this. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe. So now I'm going to read to you a scripture that says almost the same thing here. And I believe it's from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and it starts with verse 8 or 6, I believe, 8. We are afflicted in every way. It's like poetry. I've read this to you before. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. It's a little comparison. It's like a balance scale. We're afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. Remember Anne of Green Gables? and she told Marilla, I'm in despair. And she said, Anne, she said, don't be sacrilegious. To despair is to turn your back on God. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. If you ever had somebody treat you in such a way or do something that totally didn't make sense and you couldn't figure it out, well, a lot of times it's because they're hiding something and there is a reason, but they're not telling you, or you can't figure it out, and you're totally perplexed. This is perplexed but not driven to despair, persecuted but not forsaken, struck down but not destroyed. You know, that ought to be written on a piece of paper and put on your fridge, because it shows the opposite of how to behave when the bad comes along. I'll read it to you again. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. You could look up the word perplexed if you want. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. And if you want to read the rest of it, that's in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and I believe it starts with verse 8. I wanted to read that to you because it's so much like this song that I'm reading the verse. It's called "Oh, for a Faith That Will Not Shrink." I have not looked up the history of this or its dates, but that will not murmur or complain beneath the chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. Every bit of bad news to your life, and I'm not talking about news media particularly, but even your family, things that are really disappointing to you, this is what you're supposed to do with it. But in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. That's what you're supposed to do to it. So it's a test of your faith. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without. That when in danger knows nor fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Remember that proverb that said, a friend loves at all times, and a brother was born for adversity. I like to read it that way. In other words, when hard times come, this is the stuff I'm made of. And you got to guard and guide the home. And when things get too piled up, or when other people putting pressure on you, or the news media gets bad, just remember, this is what I'm made of. A brother is born for adversity. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then, whate'er may come, we'll taste and hear, even here, the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. So our home is just a replica of a future home, and we can make it nice. And that's what Emily Barnes was talking about whenever she was talking about the home, and when she wrote that little book, Simple Secrets to a Beautiful Home. I think I have time to read out of Linda Lichter's Simple Social Graces. I like to be on here an hour, and I'd like to preserve my voice, so I have to be careful. And here she is talking about manners and what can be done about it. It's so bad. She says here, let's see if I can get some light on it. She talks about how legislative efforts and the government and police should be only used as a last resort. Now see, we've all been told that you homemakers, you need to be activists and you need to spend your time, you go and you do your part in politics, and you do your part, and yes, we do, but what we are doing is very effective. But she says, she said we must apply appropriate punishments. Now just hear this out. This is really good. To civil wrongs. Now civility, manners, courteousness, legislative efforts, and lawsuits should only be used as a last resort. The notorious Victorian frozen silence effectively tied up loose tongues. prone to crude or insensitive comments. Yes, have you known people that try to shock other people with their language, their insults, their behavior, and the other person just is quiet? It still works wonders with dirty jokes if the audience, male or female, or rather, gentlemen and ladies, unites in its reaction. This is precisely why an established set of manners is essential. We have learned the hard way what happens when we improvise. And so she talks about how in Victorian times, every class and every community, not just the bluest blood, followed a powerful moral code instead of a mishmash of laws. It's just an inner code of courteousness, and courteousness covers everything. You don't have to have a bunch of laws. We're supposed to be self-ruled, and people who are self-controlled, have self-mastery, and self-rules don't need laws for themselves. They don't have to have that because they control themselves. It says, this culture of character, now I explained to you in previous videos what character was, and I will try to do that again. The backbone of civility, counted every day in every way, not just for a government-sanctioned character counts week or when some celebrity studded interest group decides to make it their cause of the month. This century turned character into a synonym for odd or peculiar, and a reference to actors who didn't play good leads. The meat of Victorian character and morality: hard work, frugality. She's describing character qualities: hard work, frugality, sobriety, honesty, non-brutal honesty, and decency, and self-sacrifice and self-restraint. She talked about how we've been looking for happiness ever since people disregarded all that. See, when you do away with all those nice character things, then you lack happiness, because happiness comes from the toil and strain of getting those character qualities. And that's why we need to teach our children at home, so they can have real happiness. That real happiness can't be achieved just by watching a funny movie or just getting what you want. It is hard work, and it's an upward climb. And Helen Andelin talked about character too. For those of you that don't like her book, a lot of people imitated her book, and they did a very bad job at it. But she did talk about character to a lot of young girls that had never heard of it. And she wrote her book in the late 60s, early 70s, and a whole generation had gone by without character training. Now, ladies, I wish I had more time. I would love to talk to you longer. But hopefully I will be able to come back soon. And thank you so much for your prayers and for all that you do for me. And I love you, and I'm going to say goodbye and stay close to Christ. Bye.